Hello everyone, welcome back again to Angela's Craft Room. Today I've got part 2. We're going to do this card to the end and it won't be as painful as you think because I have done a little bit to start off with. So as you know, I do like to do sponging backgrounds with the daubers and the ink pads, and it does take a little while, I might say, because I'm a bit fussy with my sponging and I like it all to blend in, and I don't like having blobs of ink impressions. So this is the card we're going to finish today. So to start with, I've got a piece of Calypso coral and it measures 11 inches long by 4 1/8 of an inch wide and scored at 5.5. And then inside I took a piece of Whisper White, and before popping it into the card I stamped the Mermaid a little bit off of the Whisper White cardstock. Now that cardstock inside the card, it measures 5 1/4 by 3 7/8 of an inch, and then I've just glued that in with the Tombow glue, and then that's our base, so we can put that to the side. That's ready to go. This is the stamp set that I'm using as well. It's called Magical Mermaid and it's a wonderful stamp set. I just love creating scenes, and this is a scene under the sea. So then I take a piece of shimmery white. Now this is going to be the base of our whole, this is going to be our whole mat, and we're just going to have it all nicely sponged and everything on top of that. So that's the base of it. And that piece of shimmery white, it measures 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 inches. So it's a little bit bigger than what I normally would use. Now, just some tips. Because I'm doing under the sea, what I do is I take a pencil and I draw a couple of imaginary lines, because I don't want my sand to just go straight across, my water straight across like that, because under the sea it's not going to look like that. So for my sand, I just take imaginary and I just draw in a line. It just gives me some guide. So I hope you can see that. I don't know if you can. There you go. You should be able to see that. So my sand literally starts up here and I'm going to be sponging it down and across like that. And then I just take a ruler, because down here is going to be a lot darker blue than up here. So just about there. It's no magical measurement or anything. I just put a pencil mark there, and that helps me know where I'm going to go with my darker blue and then a lighter blue at the top. So presto magic, I did my sponging first before coming on camera, because it took me a little over an hour to do that sponging, because I like it to be smooth, and I find the shimmery white does help a lot better. Now this is the dauber I used, and I used one dauber for the whole thing, and I've been sponging with it for a bit over an hour. And I started off with my Sahara sand, and as you can see, the Sahara sand is right up here and it finishes down here. So I've gone down on a slope, okay, and then I've brought in with Pool Party, and I had a straight line across, but when I was sponging I started to come up here a bit. I just felt I didn't want to go straight across, so then I brought from there and I just sponged it across, and then I brought it up a little bit, and then I finally did Soft Sky at the top. Now I went in with the colours. Even when I was finished, I still kept adding colours until I was, went a bit blurry there, sorry. And I kept adding a bit of colour until I was completely satisfied with it. So it's really easy. I'll just show you quickly. So when I sponge, I dab it on my Stampin' Up! Pad, and then I dab it off because I go in a lot lighter than I need, and it takes quite a while to get some colour over the whole thing. But I just do all my Sahara sand first, and then I come in with my Pool Party, and then I finish off with the Soft Sky, and then I just keep going back in with colour until I'm happy with it. Now that one dauber will last me about 2 cards, but I'm using that in every colour. And then when you finish with one colour, just dab it on your piece of paper or grid paper if you have it, just to get that colour off before you go into the next colour. But I wanted to do the sponging off camera because it does take quite a while. Now the other tip, because we're going to be doing some seaweed, what I also do is I use the Eclipse masking tape, and I've cut a piece off, no magic size. I'm going to put it sideways. Then I'm going to take some Always Artichoke and my stamp that's disappeared. Here it is. So it's the seaweed stamp on acrylic block, and I just stamp it up. You don't need that much ink on it because this is going to be my mask. So I just stamp it on like that. Take a pair of scissors. Now no fussy cutting, it's just very roughly. So I'm just going in and out, so that when I apply this mask to my card, it's going to cover the seaweed, and you'll see how we use it. But I'd already cut out a mask, and I thought, no, I want to show you like how easy it is to make a mask. Now there's a little bit of seaweed, so I'm going to go out a little bit. So I'm not being super fussy, and then all I'm going to do is chop that off across the bottom. Now because this up here at the top has a little gap between 2 different types of seaweed, what I do there is I just go in there with my scissors, nothing fancy, I'm just chopping a piece out. So then that piece comes out, and that is your mask that you're going to use for your seaweed. So I just wanted to show you that. Pop that over there. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to, actually I'll do the seaweed first, seeing it's on the block. No, I won't. I need to do the coral first. So I'm going to put the coral stamp on there. And we're going to just thinking what colour I need. And I didn't grab it, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So just grab my Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to stamp that on. I'm not being really fussy about it, except I did add too much pressure and I just got a bit carried away there. So I don't know how deep of a colour that's going to be, so I'm going to stamp it off I'm just going to stamp it on like that, which I'm glad I did that, because that would have been far too bright. So this is going through over our sponged Sahara sand. And we're not going to go straight across. So this is how I create my under the sea images. Now, I'm not going to go like that because it will look very silly. I'm just going to stamp that up the side. Just a little bit there. And that's how easy it is to have my coral underneath the sea. So just wipe that off with my chamois. Now if you wanted to, it most probably won't show up that much, but you could also, for interest's sake, just get a bit of Sahara sand and most probably, yeah, we stamp this on full colour. So we've stamped it up. And it doesn't have to be all the way across. We're just adding a little bit more coral in there. And it's just a different colour. And it won't show up that much because Sahara sand is a lighter colour than the Calypso coral, but it just adds a little bit of interest, a bit more texture to our under the sea images. Like that. So I'm quite happy with that. So then we can take that off. We've finished with the coral. Now we're going to do the seaweed. So that's why we did the coral first. So we need our acrylic block, and now we need our seaweed, which I will stamp in full colour. So using always artichoke, I'm going to stamp that up, trying not to stamp too much on that. I don't want that to transfer onto my piece I'm working on. And then I'm just going to have the bottom part off the cardstock a little bit because I don't want it to show a direct stop. Try not to rock it. So that's our first seaweed. Now I find, in my opinion, where people go wrong is they stamp their seaweed all the way across. And if you do that, you lose the perspective of how it really looks under the sea. So what we're going to do then is the mask that we cut out earlier, I'm just going to grab that, just line it up roughly so it just covers the seaweed. And how we've cut that notch out, if any goes there, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to do this 3 times, but we're going to go lower every time we do it. So this time I'm still going to go on to my mask area, but I've brought the height of the seaweed down a little bit. Okay, now we'll just remove that mask and see how lovely that looks. And it just looks so much more natural rather than just stamping your seaweed at the same height all the way along. Now we're only going to do that one more time. So we're just going to put the mask down on the edge of the seaweed. And we're just going to stamp that. And this time it's really just going to be the top. I always stamp the whole thing, but it's really only going to be the top that and we're going to bring it down quite low and over. So it's like that. We'll just wipe that off straight away. And then we just peel that off. And that's our seaweed done. And I just think it looks a lot better when you go down in the heights and you're building that scene under the sea. And your sand is still coming up here. You can still see your coral, but the seaweed is on top of the coral. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stamp my, just get a few things out the way. I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now I've already put it on my Stamparatus, so I know that I've got to place my card right down the bottom there. And I like to put my stamping up CD case underneath, and I'm just going to stamp. I've got the Mermaid there too, but I'm just going to do the sentiment for now, and I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I find it really handy in this little cube, because especially when you're doing it on the Stamparatus. But not only that, it's a very vibrant black, and most times I only need to stamp once. So we'll see, that's a bit in the way. So we'll just press down and see how vibrant that black is. It's just really good, and you don't have to keep re-stamping it. But I would still use the Stamparatus, or because for placement it's really good as well. So we've done the coral, the seaweed, and we've done our sentiment. So then what I'm going to do, it's a bit different than my first card. I'm going to pop that right up to there, and hopefully that's where I want my, because I'm going to stamp in this first one. I just had the mermaid, but I thought it would be nice to have another mermaid stamped underneath and then have this one on top. So either you like it or you don't. It's just a different option. So I'm just checking, and that's about where I want it. So I'm just going to stamp with the Onyx Black from VersaFine Onyx Black again, and using the Stamparatus, so that if I do miss a section or some part of the mermaid, I have that, I can restamp it. So then I'm just going to bring her down and add a bit of pressure. And she just looks beautiful. Just in that where the seaweed is, I just would like the tail to be a bit more prominent. So I'm just just re-stamp the tail. So that's a lot better. Yeah, I like that. So then I'm just going to wipe that off, and I think she looks really lovely. Like if you didn't want to colour like I did in part 1, you could even do that. You could mask her and then put another one over here if you wanted to. There's just so many ways you can use this stamp set. So I'm just going to take her out, pop the stamp apparatus out of our way, mess I've made. Now in part 1 of this video, we coloured the mermaid and left her to dry overnight because I did put a lot of crystal effects through her hair and on her tail, quite a lot. So, and you can see how it really defines that now. And then on the back, I've already put my stamping dimensionals. So actually I might just glue that to our card first, and then I can press down and not be worried. So I hope you'll try these different techniques that I'm showing. It's just what I like to do, so you might not like it. And I always say, if you don't have the stamp set that I've got, you can always use something you've got on hand, like for an undersea, or maybe you've got, you know, some sea creatures or something you can use. It's exactly the same technique, it's just the way we're doing it. You'd just be using different images if you don't have it. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this, I should say, on the front. And that even looks nice before we even put the mermaid on. So if you didn't want to put the 3D mermaid, you could just have that very easily, because all the sponging in the background really sets it off. So I'm just going to rub that over. Like that. And then I'm going to add my mermaid now. I'm just going to add her so she's like a bit of a shadow. I don't want to have her, even though it's just where you want her really. Actually, I might just have it like that, so it's just showing her a little bit, because I do have the little black mermaid, which I have added crystal effects to as well. And I was going to put her about there in the seaweed, like on my original card. And then I'm just going to press down, and it's best not to be stingy with the dimensionals when you're doing a fully cut out larger piece like this. So there we go, that's our card for today. So it's a bit different having the stamped image underneath as well. I quite like it. And this is the original one that I showed you when we were colouring the mermaid without the stamped image, and that's the one with the stamped image. And you can see this is Sahara sand and this is Sahara sand. It's just I've sponged this one a bit darker, but I do rather this one. And this is Bermuda Bay. So this I did Bermuda Bay down here, and at the top I did Pool Party, and in this one I did pool party and then soft sky at the top. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial today. I hope you'll give it a try, and until next time, happy crafting!